Hey guys, it's Coach Gaglione here from GaglioneStrength.com. We got another strong lady on the line. How you doing today, Meana?
I am well. How are you?
I'm great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. You're our first Canadian on the show, so congratulations.
Thank you. I'll have to represent.
Absolutely. So yeah, I know. So we first met at a seminar in New Jersey, which was cool. I
Hmm.
remember recognizing you from some of your, sponsored by Elite. You got some training
Yeah.
log on there, which is great. So that was cool that we got to connect and kind of work with each other a little bit. So that was fun. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
for the people that don't know who you are, can you just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you got going on right now?
My name is Meana Franco. I am from Ottawa, Canada, and I compete as a powerlifter. I am for the CPU or the IPF. I'm sponsored by Elite FTS, which is an awesome opportunity that sometimes I don't think I deserve, but I am not going to complain about it. Um, right now, I am training for CPU Nationals, which is our Nationals, which is March 12th, the week of that. And yeah, I work as a personal trainer, and I mostly work with general population and some powerlifters.
Very cool. And for those that are watching that are unfamiliar with the different kind of branches and stuff, so the federation she's talking about is basically like our USAPL equivalent.
Yeah,
So that's kind of like the kind of yeah, the equivalent over there. So like our
yeah,
raw nationals, the same kind of deal for those that
exactly.
don't know. So it's under the IPF umbrella.
Yeah.
So I want to rewind a little bit and just talk to the people about a little bit how you actually got started lifting before you actually even got into powerlifting. Like how did you actually get started strength training, and then what kind of eventually led you to competing in your first meet.
Yeah. So it started out, I first got a gym membership when I was 12 years old, just because it was what I wanted to do at the time. And I ended up doing a lot of cardio, a lot of machine work, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Um, and all through high school, I was in wrestling and rugby. And then even moving into college, I played varsity rugby. And when I was in college, I would go to the weight room, and that's when I actually started doing squats and some deadlifts and benching and that kind of thing. I really had no idea what I was doing at the time, but that's when I started getting into more of the heavier training. And it wasn't until I was working as a personal trainer, and I was actually, doing some good technique and getting more into strength training. And I kind of finished off playing rugby because it was too time consuming. I was kind of looking for something to do. And I ended up enjoying the strength training. So I had no idea what powerlifting was at the time. I just decided to one day I would bench one day and then I would kind of rep out 115 or whatever it was. The next day I would max out on a deadlift. I had no program. I just kind of did what I wanted to do. Um, and my partner was really into Elite FTS, and he was kind of looking into doing powerlifting and that kind of thing. And he told me about a seminar that Elite FTS was running called Learn to Train. And we ended up flying out to Ohio, and I met Dave Tate, and I'd only read a few articles on the website, and I had a few pieces of equipment and clothing from Elite, but I wasn't really obsessed with it, and I wasn't, like, I loved their stuff, but I still kind of didn't really understand powerlifting.
Sure.
And it wasn't until we went to Learn to Train that I was like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
it was pretty life changing. I was in a group with Brandon Smitley, Joe Shalero, Jen Petrosino, and a few other
Cool.
awesome lifters, and they were coaching us and that kind of thing. And I remember I was wearing like those 5-finger shoes
The Vibrams.
because I was popular at the time. And even with that kind of stuff, like I had no equipment. Like I was just kind of there in my yoga pants and my shirt. And they coached me to squat. I think it was like 315.
Wow.
In those Vibram shoes and that kind of thing. And it was just a crazy experience. I think that day I also, with terrible technique, still had managed to bench around 200 pounds. But it was one of those things where I was there and Dave Tate told me that I had something special. And I couldn't believe it. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. People think I'm strong. People think that I'm somebody. And I'm just like this little 22-year-old
Yeah.
who had somebody who believed in them. And that was a
That's
pretty
cool.
life-changing experience for me.
What?
And then after that, I did a bench only meet, a really small bench only meet in Ottawa. And from there, it was kind of my switch was flipped.
Cool. Do you remember
Yeah,
which Learn to Train that was? Just curious.
that was Learn to Train 8, so it was the last Learn to Train.
Cool. I think man, I think I was at the one the year before, but yeah, that was a great seminar, and that was
Hmm.
actually the first time I met like Dave in person and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got a great community there, and I think like that's one of the reasons I love powerlifting so much. The community is so great and so positive and uplifting, and I think you kind of don't realize sometimes we don't like really like realize the potential like in ourselves, and it's really cool like when someone else kind of sees that in you and they kind of believe in you, and that's definitely like a really motivating
Yeah.
thing
And
for
I mean, he
sure.
could have even been lying to me. He could have been like, "You're somebody special," and I would have been like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just so excited about it, right? But I think people tend to forget the effect that they can have on an individual just by saying something as simple as he said something like "You're fucking strong,"
yeah.
and I was just like, "Oh my god, Dave Tate thinks I'm strong." Um, but we forget that simple things that are small as that can, change the course of somebody's life.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think it's one thing. I was actually talking with I don't know if you ever met like Anna McCluskey. But she lives in Pennsylvania. But she's an equipped lifter. She's sponsored by Metal, so she wears all like
Oh yeah.
she's an equipped lifter too. And her her father has been like coaching powerlifting for like 30 years, and he on Powerlifting Watch is like our like site where all the American meets are posted and all the results. He always like comments like something positive, and I was saying like how like it's like I wish there was more people like that too that would like because
Hmm.
sometimes people like focus on the negative thing, but yeah, like just having like good job, and it's not like rah rah cheerleader all the time, but just saying like oh you did a good job and stuff that really does go a long way, and that positive reinforcement is great. So I think that's like a great
Yeah,
point. I
absolutely.
want to rewind a little bit because I actually did not know this about you. I knew that you were a rugby player, but I did not know that you wrestled. So I was
I
just
did a little bit. I wasn't very good at it.
well, so
Um,
yeah,
I think I did 3 years of wrestling.
well that's still
Um,
pretty substantial. So yeah, so I just want to talk about how it was like. Did you have was there a women's team or were you on the guys team or like how was that and
um, there were 3 women, so we practiced with the men.
yeah.
But there were 3 women in our school team.
And how is that like mentally, emotionally, like, how is that like kind of just from a mental standpoint and because it's obviously
Um,
not really typical. I don't know how it is. Like I know like here it's not really typical. It's getting more popular, but even like women's MMA and things like that, women's fighting, like, how is that like just just from a woman's perspective and because maybe it's not like typically like the womanly thing to do, but like how is that like just kind of growing up?
I'm I've always gotten on pretty well with men. And I think for me, I think I realized pretty early on that I wasn't normal. Um, I'm 5'1", and I've always been stockier.
Yeah,
And I tried out for the soccer team because leading up to that, when I was really young, I played soccer. And I didn't make the team, and I knew I wanted to do something active.
yeah,
And I had the wrestling coach kind of point me out in class and was like, "You need to start wrestling." And then when I did show up, I ended up being pretty terrified because it's
sure.
just. I think there was one other girl there when I first started, and then it was all guys. But the woman that was there, she was bubbly and she was happy and she didn't give a fuck. So I think having somebody there that was already kind of setting a standard for me was great because she wasn't your typical girl where she was worried about what people thought about her or was worried about being too strong for the guys.
Yeah.
But I think that helped out a lot having somebody there to be a role model and to kind of pave that way of thinking. It's okay to be strong and it's okay to own it.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. That's kind of why I wanted to just chat about that quick too, because whether it's lifting or like a sport or anything else, I think it's really important to be comfortable in your own skin and not like worry too much about, well, what are people going to think of me if I you know,
Yeah.
like like bench 225 or deadlift 500 or whatever it is, or like is there like a point where you should be able to come to, if this is something you want to like go for, like do it for yourself. Don't like worry about, like, don't do it for someone else. So I think that's really cool, and yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
really cool experience. I think there's probably a lot of girls out there that are afraid to. They want to try it, but maybe they're afraid of what people are going to think about them, or if they're going to get criticized, or if they're going to get judged, and that's a really like terrifying feeling for a lot of people. But I think it's important that there are people that are just like you that you can kind of look up to as role models and get that support from, and don't be afraid to kind of reach out for help if you need help. So
Absolutely. It's a sad life to live, to be constantly worried about what other people think of you. So I think that more people need to realize that, and more people need to reach out and find, especially more women need to find other strong women, and use them as role models, and to use them to show them that it's okay, to show them that you can be a woman and you can be strong, and you don't have to put your butt on Instagram to get followers and all that kind of stuff, right?
I feel you on that.
Yep.
I tried it once, didn't work. It just
You did.
No.
Oh, did you lose followers?
Oh my god. Really quick, just funny story. So around the time, I'm not sure if do you know who Jackie Perez is? She's like a CrossFitter. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've heard of her.
Anyway,
Yeah,
she's got like a pretty big following on like Instagram. But so my coach at the time was Jesse Burdick at Combat Sports Academy. Still one of my good friends. And around the same time, Mark Bella came out with the hip circle, and like it was kind of funny, but like so like Jackie's doing the hip circle. She's got a great body. So she's doing the hip circle, and Jesse's kind of like making a little bit of a joke of it. And then so I like did like a follow up video in the hip circle in like kind of like tight compression shorts. Also, kind of like like, and I like kind of was like, yeah, I'm like, so then like she made another. I thought that was gonna be it. So then she made another video because I kind of called her out. I'm like, this is like blah blah, like how you do it, blah blah. And then she starts like basically wearing less clothes in the next video, and I'm just like, all right, I'm not stripping down anymore, like like just to kind of show off the product. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm like, you win, like like I'm not gonna like do this like in a thong or something, I'm just like, we're good. But it was just kind of funny, and it just kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, I think that's really important. So I wanted to go back to your powerlifting.
Hey, if you want to put your butt on Instagram, all the best to you.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be like a to get followers you have to put your bum on Instagram, right?
Absolutely.
It should be on a want to do it basis.
Yeah, and there's like a tasteful like way to do progress pics and things like that, or it's like but that's all other like can of worms. But I just, like I said, wanted to share that story with you because it was kind of funny. But
that's awesome though.
Yeah, people like we were like she got a lot more likes than I did. Let's put it that way.
Was that a long time ago? I might look for that later.
It's on my YouTube. If maybe I'll send you the link at the if you really want to see me in the compression.
Oh, I don't know.
if you're really dying for it. Anyway, so I wanted to just talk about like, was there like ever a defining moment? Maybe it was when Dave Tate said that, but like, was there a defining moment where you started competing, you did this bench only meet, that you're like, I want to take this to the next level, I want to compete at a national level, and now you're talking about going to qualifying for IPF Worlds, which is a huge deal, to represent your country at like a big stage like that. Was there ever like a moment or like something clicked where you're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna really commit to it and really try and take this to the next level?
I think for me, one thing for me is I was diagnosed with kidney disease when I was 16 or 17 years old, and I've got a bit of a shorter term on life than most people do, and I think there was a point where I kind of decided that I wanted to be really good at something, and I wanted to be great at something. And I thought it was rugby for me, but it turned out not to be. And I think powerlifting kind of gave me an opportunity where I can feel like I want to be. It gives me something that I can be great at. And maybe I won't end up ever being the best in the world, but I'm going to at least strive for it. And for me, when I did that bench only meet and I did pretty well in it, And I had Dave Tate telling me, you can be really good at this.
Yeah.
I think it was when I went to my second elite seminar, which was the first powerlifting experience. I ended up talking to Dave for a while, and he was kind of like running numbers and that kind of thing. And he is like, at the time I was a junior, and he was telling me, if you did the numbers that you did today at Worlds, you would have won or placed second. And for me, that was kind of like that.
Wow.
Holy shit! I can be good at this. Like I can. This is an opportunity for me to be great at something. And for me, I was almost waiting and hoping for something that I would have an opportunity like that in. And yeah, that was kind of that moment where I realized, holy crap, I can do this.
That's really cool, and that's another thing I didn't know about you. So I think that's a really great mindset. I always think I think everyone has something like maybe that's they've dealt with some adversity or something that's happened to them in the past.
Everyone has adversity. Everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really choosing to focus on the things that you can control and not focusing on the things that you can't control. So obviously, like maybe this is something you're born with or whatever. This is just an issue you have. It's not something that's you can't snap your fingers. It's not gonna go away. Why not make the best of it and why not like go 100% and give it your all, because otherwise you're never gonna really know like really where you can go. So I think that's really cool. Love it. So you kind of answered a little bit of that question already, but I know you also been kind of dealing with like a low back thing. So have you ever dealt with any other adversity or setbacks? And then if so, like what are you doing to overcome it, and what have you done to like overcome things like that in the past?
In terms of setbacks, other than my kidney disease, which is it's always going to be an issue for me, and that's pretty much the biggest piece of adversity for me. That I don't like. I might make it to 35 before I need a new kidney.
Wow.
Beyond that, the low back is pretty much the current issue, and it's actually getting a lot better. With the low back, I'm actually doing physio right now, and I'm actually getting back up into kind of the training numbers that I was at before, but making sure that I'm really keeping an eye on it and making sure that I'm really making sure that my body is primed and ready to go before every workout. I think everyone has some sort of adversity. For me, when it came to my kidney disease, I spent a lot of time, because I was I think I was 17 when I was first diagnosed. I think everyone kind of has an aha moment where they have to make a decision on how they're going to act for the rest of their life. And for me, I think I had that a lot earlier than most people usually do. But the way that you deal with adversity, I think says a lot about you. For me, I spent a lot of time being upset about it and sad about it and crying about it. And it wasn't until I was in, I think my second year of college, where I was like, I need to snap out of this. I need to be responsible for what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Because life is going to be short, dude. You gotta make the most of it. So for me, deciding to be great at something, for me deciding to treat people as best as I can, and try to empower people. It's kind of what I took from that.
Yeah, I think that's really, really great advice. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, we all deal with things. We all have setbacks. We all have stuff that we kind of go through. And sitting and doing nothing is like, it's not going to change anything. So just try to move forward, do your best, do what you can. And I think also, don't be afraid if you need to talk to somebody or reach out for support.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people, there's definitely some people I know in my life, and I've kind of done that sometimes. We tend to not want to we kind of tend to isolate ourselves when things go bad, and that's probably like the worst thing you could do. I think just.
I didn't tell anybody that I was upset about it. Whenever my parents had asked me if I was doing okay and I was handling it well, I would always say absolutely. And like even with my friends, I wouldn't let anybody in on it. And it really wasn't until I was kind of in that second year of college where I was like, I probably need to do something about this. And I think it takes everyone a different amount of time, right?
Cool. I think that's really great advice, not just for lifting, but just in life in general. So, very cool.
And I think even for like some powerlifters, I think you said you had Tara on your podcast, eh? I've been following her log lately, and I guess she's been dealing with low back issues as well. And even like Casey Williams too.
Yeah.
As powerlifters, we tend to ignore our bodies and what our bodies are telling us. And if it's like a low level injury, we're going to keep ignoring it. Tara and Casey, both finally they stopped and they took a longer period of time off, right? Because they finally went, oh God, I should probably. They had somebody to tell them to, but they had to realize that they needed to stop for a while, readdress it, and then they were able to go back. And well, I know Tara's still dealing with it, but Casey now is putting up some huge numbers again. But we always need to take a second and reassess and kind of have to bite your tongue and deal with it.
Yeah, I think even with I never actually met or spoke with Casey in person, but just kind of I know like he just basically hit like more or less openers to qualify for the XBC, and he's just training a lot smarter, doing a lot smarter things. I know doing the stuff with Danny, who I'm friendly with also, and I think that's like really great. And I think sometimes like it takes you to kind of hit rock bottom to realize these things, unfortunately. But if you can kind of learn from other people's mistakes, it doesn't always work that way. Unfortunately, sometimes like you have to like kind of fail for yourself to kind of see. But
sorry,
that's okay. We're good. We're safe, guys.
We're good. We're all right.
We're good. But yeah, no, so I think that's great. So the other thing I always like to ask too, if someone was kind of maybe on the fence of starting powerlifting, starting strength training, maybe they wanted to do a meet, what advice would you give them?
First of all, hire a coach. Are we talking about people who are already into doing strength training in that?
It could be like basically just like a beginner, like woman who maybe they're just maybe a little unsure, like about really committing to it, or maybe they're like want to do a meet, or they're not sure, but maybe they've thought about like maybe competing or starting powerlifting, but they're really not sure where to start, or maybe they have I don't know, they've heard like whatever myths, but they're just kind of like just on the fence of starting.
Like I said, the first thing that I always tell people is to hire a coach, or even to have somebody that they trust with them along the way, because it can be a really lonely road otherwise.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would say to, especially for women, to own their strength, okay? And that they might not be as good as they want to be in their first meet, but to take that stepping stone, to take that jump and do what they can on that day, and to keep doing it and to keep working at it.
I think that's really good advice. One thing that kind of drives me nuts is when people are like, well, I'm not like strong enough to compete, or I'm not strong enough to like go to a powerlifting gym. Like I've had people come to me like they're like, oh, well, I can't train. I need to train before I go to your gym, and I'm just like, this is like so like crazy.
Somewhere. We all have to start somewhere.
Well, that's what I always say. Like, if someone's like an 800-pound deadlifter, at some point they were deadlifting 315 or whatever it is. At some point, you're benching over 200 pounds. You talked about at some point you were doing 115, 95, or I mean, like you had to go through that progression. Now, some people progress a little quicker than others, obviously, but I think there's nothing, like you said, nothing wrong with owning your strength. And at the end of the day, like if you're getting better and you're getting stronger, it's like if you're a better version of yourself. There's no shame in that. Like my first meet, I squatted 375. Nothing like earth shattering. And like I said, I was talking about before we started the recording. In 2017, I'm looking to squat a grand. So that's a 10-year plus process. It wasn't like 10-week or 10-day kind of ordeal.
Yeah.
It's a process, and especially like for me, like I want to be doing this for a long time. So I'm not like in a rush. Like don't be in a rush. Like sometimes. When I started out too, we didn't have all like the social media stuff, so it was a little bit like less. It was a little easier not to get as distracted, but just compare you to you. Very cool. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the call today. I really appreciate your time. Absolutely. I know, it was a little It's a little crazy around the holiday time getting the schedules together, but where if people want to find out more about you, they want to follow you. I know you got the training log on Elite, and you got some social media stuff. Where can they check you out?
So if they want to follow my training, I post all of my training and even kind of what's going on in my life on EliteFTS.com. So if you go into the training logs Dropbox, just click on my name, Meana Franco. And other than that, you can Instagram me, Meana Franco, all one word. I post some training videos, some funny selfies sometimes. That's about it on there. Yeah.
There you go. And then if people like want to, let's say that we got some listeners that are local in Canada and they want to do some training with you, where can they find more about that?
They could contact me by emailing me at meana.franco@gmail.com, and I would love to have them.
Yeah, great. I think it's good because I think a lot of people always like sometimes ask like, I do like a lot of online coaching. I'm not sure if you do any of that, but like, I always recommend people if you could find someone like in person, like even if I like am not making as much money, it's okay. I'd rather you like work with someone in person, like you're talking about work with a team. So if you guys are in like the area, definitely check her out. I think that's like really important because I think I don't know. I think sometimes everyone wants like this special like online kind of plan, but training with a group is awesome. And I think, like you said, it is a lonely road, and having that support and having that live help, and just someone to cue you like in person, is huge. I know, like like I said, you're working with Steve, and like when you get to work with him in person, I'm sure it's always
it's a game changer for
sure. It's a
sure.
lot better of experience, and
Yeah.
I got to see him. I mean, I've seen him. I don't know how many times I've seen him in person, but watching him like handle some of the girls at Boss of Boston's and stuff, like it's cool. Like it's great to see like other people kind of doing that, and so great stuff. So very cool.
Yeah.
Definitely give her a follow. Check out her log on Elite if you're in the area. Definitely shoot her an email and
Love to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Thank you guys so much for watching the interview. If this helped you, please share it. Please give the podcast a 5-star review. Helps other women find us. And thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.